Thank you for joining us again. If you are a regular attendee to our webinars, and if this is your first time, welcome aboard. Today we are talking about a slightly different subject of getting to know you, which is part one in our three-part webinar series, and all will become clear in a moment on that. So if you are new to us, this is briefly how we operate the webinar sessions. If you are an attendee, please remain on mute unless you're presenting, or at the end we will have time for some questions and discussion with the speakers if you'd like to hang on for that. Or if you've got questions during the session, do use the Q&A function or the chat button, and we are asking for some feedback and interaction today, so look out for the polls when they appear. And I will leave the session open after 10:30, after the formal close, for any questions and chat if you'd like to stay. That's the admin. If you're new to Calico, obviously you've seen us and you're here today, so you must have seen the webinar content. But our purpose as a whole group of 16 different companies is to freely share our business knowledge, which spans everything a law firm needs to know strategically, from finance and funding to people management to sales and marketing to outsourcing key functions to document transcription, and lots of things in between. And we're kind of practicing what we're preaching today. So after you've heard this webinar, you might see some similarities with what we do in Calico on the getting to know you side. So if you like what you hear today from our speakers or want any more information, then do make contact with any of our members, or feel free to email me and I'll put you in touch. So who's in the group? As I mentioned, we have 16 very different companies. The one thing that binds us together is our experience in the legal sector and our focus on really quality and trusted partner relationships with our law firm clients. So there's some absolutely brilliant companies in here and individuals, consultants who can really help your business move forward with a whole variety of challenges and opportunities in this fast moving sector. So do have a look. All the contact details on what everyone does is on the membership tree, as I call it, and you can find it here on our website, and you can download a PDF copy to hand around at partner meetings when you've got different projects coming up. And by all means, do get in touch with everyone directly. So a very short signpost to the next webinar. We hold these on a monthly basis. So the next webinar is slightly earlier than normal to avoid the school holidays. So we're meeting again on the 15th of July, all about the PII market, which is a very hot topic this year. A tough market last year, and it looks set to continue this year. So do join Brian and Amy on the 15th of July, where they'll lend their massive insights into how it's all working this year and how to get the best position for your firm on professional indemnity insurance, which obviously is a concern for a lot of firms this year. So to today's topic, getting to know you. This is the ever lovely Julie Andrews in The King and I almost put a picture of Sound of Music, which is the main thing that I know her from, but I caught myself just in time. But that song is really all about what we're talking about today, which is the getting to know you as the first stage of the know, like, trust process, moving from total stranger to your business to you being that trusted advisor that they're happy to refer and recommend to others. And it's how we're actually going to move through that process in a quite a crowded market. Lots of firms do the same thing. How can you stand out from the crowd and make that journey quick and effective, so that people are happy to recommend you at the end of the day? So that's what we're talking about today. You might have thought initially it was a marketing webinar. It's not. We're actually starting much more fundamental than that, and we'll explain more in a moment. So here's our cast for today. The musical references will stop, I promise, in a moment. So I've actually got my marketing hat on today rather than Calico. So I also run a marketing agency called Ink Legal. Very pleased to introduce Rebecca Bonnington from Tricres, and Rebecca will explain more about what she does in a moment. Victoria Moffatt from LexRex Communications, and Greg Best from Legal RSS. So all members and associates of Calico, and we're presenting the webinar today. So I just want to start with a question, a thought-provoking question really. It's a bit of a rhetorical one. Don't need a yes or a no quite yet, but it's all about, do your target clients know about you? And that might seem quite a simple question to begin with. Of course, your target clients need to know about you, but the real question is, do they know your firm? So if I was asked by someone for a recommendation or thoughts on perhaps getting a new will, and I think about the firms in my locality and the towns around about where I live, I know lots of firms exist. I know there's a law firm where I live. I know there's lots of law firms in the bigger town along the way, but I don't know them. So my conversation would probably go, well, I know there's XYZ firm in the town next to us, but I don't know about them. And I'd probably follow up with the words, but I don't know if they're any good. I don't know them. So that's the really difference we're talking about. I know as a law firm, they will do wills and probate, LPAs, etc. But I don't know if they're any good. I don't have any kind of emotional connection with them. And I also don't feel comfortable at that point recommending them at all. I'll say, well, I know they exist. And knowing they exist is not good enough. What we're trying to do is actually get to the point where I'd be happy to say, I don't know a lot about them, but they, for example, they sponsor the beautiful flowers on our roundabout in our town. You know, it sounds silly as one minor touch point, but it does mean that they're interested in me, interested in talking to people from where I live, and care enough to actually do something pleasant for the environment. So, you know, it's a small thing, but it helps than just knowing they exist. So what's the difference? It's a personal reaction. Knowing something exists is very different to knowing a firm or having some kind of opinion about them. So that's really what we're talking about today, is really starting back from the basics. Before we start talking about products and services and marketing budgets and all the lovely technology out there to do lots of marketing, we're really looking at the fundamental. The other question really is, do you know your firm? It sounds an obvious question, and you might answer with, well, the firm's been around since 1750 and it's 3 offices and we have 150 people and this is what we do. But is it a collection of very different individuals, teams and departments? Does it matter? And that's what we're really talking about today. So I'm very pleased to introduce Rebecca, kicking off with a quote from Benjamin Franklin. There are 3 things extremely hard: steal, a diamond, and to know oneself. And I think this applies to any business, law firms otherwise, and perhaps ourselves as individuals as well. So Rebecca, over to you.
Thank you, Pauline. I love that quote. I'm going to use that because it's absolutely spot on. And thank you everybody for joining us this morning. The mere fact that you're here means that you're interested in setting your firm, your business apart from everybody else. And yeah, it begins with knowing who you are as a business. So for the purposes of what I'm going to talk about for the next 10 minutes or so, I want you to consider your business, your firm, as an entity, as a human being, if you like, as an actual person with characters, with needs, wants and desires. And if you imagine your business as an entity, this all begins to make lots more sense. So a lot of people think that gaining new clients, as Pauline said, is about, you know, the marketing strategy. And I love the fact maybe everybody's going to go out and sponsor flowers on roundabouts now, which would not be a bad thing. It would be a nice thing. But understanding who you are is about the brand. And a brand is not a logo. I hope you all understand that. And that's a very fundamental thing. But a lot of organizations, firms forget that their brand promise has to deliver internally first. So you have to deliver your brand promise to your own people first, and then deliver it to the external market. Why do you need to deliver it to your own people first? Well, because they're the people that your clients are interacting with. Whilst your firm is made up of, the history, the building, the site, the skills, the knowledge, fundamentally it is people. So your people must understand what that firm believes in, what it stands for, and as Pauline rightly says, have an emotional connection to it. And why does this matter? Well, it matters because they're the ones that are going to set you apart from everybody else. They're the ones that are winning your business. They're the ones that are delivering on the brand strategy out there every day. And in a very practical sense, internally, that means that you're looking at behaviors, you're looking at the values of the firm, and you're looking at the strategies. Now, values are not just pretty words on a mouse mat, okay? Or, nice shiny PDFs and documents. The values of a business are very much a decision-making tool, a hiring decision-making tool, a succession planning tool, a talent nurturing and acquisition tool, and even, dare I say it, a client acquisition tool. Once you've nailed your values as a firm, it becomes a lot easier to decide who you want to work with, how you want to work with them, and who you want to recruit into your teams to work with those people. And everything needs to align. So our diagram here is about the culture of the business internally, speaking outwards to the external market, and it has to align. We've all seen examples. Brewdog is a very, very recent example of giving off this image of an external brand promise, but internally not delivering to its first customers, its own people. And that results in the founder having to go on radio too and explaining himself, which can't be a very nice thing to do. So having alignment is really important. And what I'm going to say to you all out there, if you're going to embark on building, I call it a purpose, vision and values, do it properly or not at all. These things aren't compulsory, but if you're going to do it, really pay attention to it, put energy, resources and effort into it, or don't do it at all. It's much worse to do it half-heartedly. Just don't bother, okay? It's not compulsory, but businesses with a good positive culture are up to 60% more valuable than businesses without. So it's really important to understand there are proper commercial reasons for focusing your attention on this. Now we're going to do a quick poll, Pauline, please, because I want to find out what's going on in your firm right now or your business right now in order to give you something that's very specific to your needs at this point in time. Are we ready?
We are.
Go for it.
Launch the poll. Hopefully you can see that.
Hopefully. So yeah, does your firm have a clear written purpose that everyone is aware of? Can you go to the next slide, Pauline, so I can just explain?
Getting
brilliant.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so the purpose, if any of you have watched the Simon Sinek TED Talk, Why Great Leaders Inspire Action, he calls it why. At Tricres, we call it your purpose, okay? If you're one of the 50 odd million people who haven't watched that TED Talk, please go ahead and watch it. But the purpose is at the heart of what you're about. It's why you get out of bed in the morning to do what you do. And it's not to make money, okay? That's a side product. So does the firm have a clear written purpose that everybody is aware of? You may have a direction, but you might not have told everybody about it. And that's at the heart of the business? Does your firm have a clear written vision that everybody is aware of? So that's the next circle round. That vision, I always say, have a 10-year vision. Make it big, make it audacious, make it a little bit scary. 10 years is a long way in advance. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes. So yes, you are making it up. So that vision is where you would like to be in 10 years' time. And is everybody aware of that? And does your firm have a clear written set of values that everybody is aware of? And I mean more than just having nice words on a mouse mat. Are they actually being used in the business? Are they integrated into your systems and processes? Okay, there were only 3 questions, weren't there, Pauline?
There were.
Brilliant.
Half of you have voted, so
Great.
wake up the other half. You have a few seconds to
vote.
voting. Again, this applies to all businesses, not just the law firms that are on this webinar. So do feel free to vote, even if you are a Calico member. I think it's really interesting to find out whether this varies between the questions or whether it's a straight yes or no to everything.
Yeah.
So we've got 60%. I am going to share the votes actually.
Cool.
So
please.
got a couple of seconds. Okay, so let's end that, and I'm going to share the results with you. Hopefully you can see that on the screen, Rebecca.
Great. Brilliant. So yes, no, right. Okay, brilliant. So what I'm going to do is we've got sort of eeksy peeksy on the purpose. We've got most people have said no, they haven't got the vision, and most people are saying yes, they've got the set of values. So I'm going to take the second 2 because I've only got how much time have I got, Pauline?
Let's see, you've got another sort of 6-7 minutes actually.
I'm going to trot through this then. Okay, right.
Stop sharing that.
So if you haven't got a clear 10-year vision, I'm going to suggest you spend time with the board, the senior team, to get that nailed. And the reason is because that's your autopilot. That's your direction of travel for the next 10 years. That's how you are going to get the right kind of clients, the right kind of staff, the right kind of people to deliver what you're passionate about, to deliver your purpose, in other words, to the market out there. When you have a global pandemic, a crisis, a hurricane, an earthquake, or whatever it is, once that vision is set, you will get knocked off course, absolutely, but it's easier to get back on course once you've got a very clear direction of travel. Think of it this way: you would not set off on a long journey without knowing where your destination is, okay? That's the purpose of the vision in your firm. How on earth can your clients know who you are and what you do if they don't know where you're going? It makes it a little bit flabby for them. It's a bit hard for them to get their head round. But if they've got a clear idea of what you're about, what you stand for, and where you're heading, they can go, do you know, they're my kind of firm. I'd like to have my will with them. The last one is about values, and I'm going to challenge you on that. Can I have the next slide, please, Pauline? So if those of you have said, yes, we've got a set of values, I want to challenge you and say, do you have them written down in a similar fashion to this? i.e., does everybody know exactly what they mean in your business? Because bold in our business means brave, fearless, and challenging, okay? But in your business, if you had bold, that might mean something completely different to you. Our behaviors that are associated with that are: we stand by what we say it as it is, and we are leaders, okay? Does your business have a set of behaviors that reinforces and encourages those values, okay? And then probably the most important bit, is there a supporting system to make sure those behaviors are encouraged? So you'll see ours coming out in our branding, our marketing, our growth plans, and our international expansion. Those are supporting systems. And obviously those of you who are strategy minded will go, that's part of the strategy. Absolutely. This is how values are embedded into an organization. they become integral to the strategy of the whole business. We've got 3. This actually gives us our business plan, our map, and along with the vision gives us the clear direction of where we're heading, which means that when we see an opportunity, we know whether it's right and whether it's wrong for us. And when we see a client, we know whether they're right or whether they're wrong for us. And it's much easier to make better decisions, clear, conscious choices about a whole range of things once you've got this stuff embedded into the organization. The other great bit is once you've got the behaviors embedded, you can list behaviors at each layer in your organization, meaning that people have a very clear idea of exactly what's expected of them as they go up in the organization. So the most junior person can see what it takes to get to be a part in terms of behaviors as well as skills. It makes nurturing talent so much easier. This is, once a business, a firm has done this, they know themselves really, really well. They've done a bit of navel gazing, they've written it down, they've embedded it into the system. They know who they are, they know what they stand for, and it's so much easier then to go out into the marketplace and go, we're this, and we want to work with people like you. Now that's a whole world apart from, yeah, we're a multi-service law firm providing X, Y, and Z. Well, everybody does that. Everybody does that. This is what's going to separate you from the competition. And it doesn't matter whether it's a niche in terms of location or specialism or family businesses or whatever it is. You pin your flag to a flagpole and mark and set out your stall. The argument is, but won't we miss out on business? No, you absolutely don't miss out on business. You attract more of the right business, and then you get referrals to other businesses because people know what you stand for because you know yourself. And that's me.
Fantastic. Right. On that note, I'm pleased to hand over to Victoria Moffatt, who will follow on from purpose, vision and values into the reputation and PR and media side of it. How does it all join up?
Yeah, lovely, thank you, and thanks, Rebecca. That was I was literally like scribbling away as you were going through that, and I've got some really nice points that I just want to pick up on. And actually, I should probably introduce myself. So my name is Victoria Moffatt. I'm recently involved in Calico. I'm very happy to be here. So I'm a former lawyer. I was in practice for around 7 years. Almost a decade ago, don't tell anyone. And since leaving, well, I never know if I've left the dark side or if I've entered the dark side. I'm not quite sure. I'm sure people have different views on that. But I've run my business, LexRex Communications, for almost a decade. We help law firms to grow, essentially, and we do that through strategic PR and marketing services. We offer a vast range of different sort of services to support our clients. But yeah, I mean, my sort of first love is media relations. There's nothing better than that stomach churning feeling of ringing the BBC and getting your client on the BBC, or that sort of horrible feeling where a journalist sort of puts the phone down on you because they're like, no, we're not interested. You know, it's terrible, it's horrible, and we make sure that law firms don't have to do it, basically. So just when I'm selling my services really well to you, yeah, I want to talk about sort of reputation, and I'm going to sound a bit Chris Whitty now, but can we have the next slide, please, Pauline? Excellent, thank you. Who knows who this is? Can you answer in the Q&A so I don't look like an idiot? I want some people to say who they think it is, and also why they think this individual might be there. Does anybody have any ideas?
Or in the chat?
Or sorry, yes, in the chat, or yeah, in the chat, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Come
on, somebody put me out of my misery, or I look like an idiot. Yay, somebody's replied. Albeit it's one of the panelists, but thank you, Rebecca, for saving my blushes. It's Jeff Bezos, and yeah, let's see if anybody has said why they think he might be there. Yeah, good guess. His reputation has gone up and down over time. This is very true, actually. Yes, he's taken a bit of a kicking recently, hasn't he, during COVID, with making his billions of pounds and all the rest of it. Okay, any other? That isn't the reason that he's here, but I do like that answer. Anybody else know why he's here? Okay, I'll give you a clue. He said something, I guess it must have been a while ago now, and it's just one of those phrases that comes up a lot, actually. I'll put you out of your misery. So Jeff Bezos said, brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Now, honestly, I think that actually that phrase, and that in particular the word brand, can quite easily be interchanged with the phrase reputation. You know, I think, Pauline, you were saying before, you know, you may know of a law firm because it literally sponsors the flowers on a roundabout. And Rebecca, then you were sort of talking about this idea of, you know, your team are basically your first clients, and why it's so important that they sort of understand what the firm is about, what its values are about, what it does, what it doesn't do. Particularly, that's really important in terms of behaviours, isn't it? I think what you don't do. And actually, yeah, I just think what people say about you is so important. And if they say nothing about you, then obviously that's not great either. But I think where sort of the PR and the marketing and the stuff that Rebecca was talking about before is where it's really important, is it can help guide that conversation. It can help people say the right things about you. It can help people say the things about you that you want to say about them. And I think people think that PR and marketing, well, particularly PR and the media relations side of things, is this secret sort of dark art. And actually it isn't. You know, PR is about changing reputations. It's about guiding people to think what you want them to think about you. And one thing that I think is really important to pick up on here is, again, going back to what Rebecca was saying about being really clear about what you're about and what you're not about. And again, the example of Brewdog, that's a business that has spent millions on, you know, this amazing kind of marketing campaign, fantastic PR stunts, you know, really cool stuff, the stuff that lots of us are in awe of, and, you know, thinking, well, a law firm could never do that. I mean, they could, but they probably wouldn't get signed off for a lot of it. But it's really crashed down for them because their external kind of reputation and everybody thinking they're a really cool business just hasn't proven to be the case in real life. And the problem when you've got that is, what's happened is you know, Brewdog have basically said to people, right, get to know us, you know, we know them because they're cheeky chaps and they do all these crazy things. Like, I can't remember, did they send a squirrel to space, or were they going to send a squirrel to space? They've done loads of really bonkers things over the years. And, you know, even the way they were kind of founded on sort of crowdsourcing and saying to people, trust us, trust us, trust us, you know, we're going to be massive. Put your money where our mouth is, basically. So they got people to know them. They got people to like them by doing all this fun stuff. And most importantly, they got people to trust them. They got people to trust them. They said, trust us. And then it all went wrong, didn't it? It all went wrong. And actually what you've done is what they've done is they've taken somebody on this journey of like, know, trust, invest in us, buy our product. And then they've tipped over and they've lost that trust. And it reminds me of, you know, that another famous phrase, which is nobody ever gets fired for buying IBM or for instructing IBM. And it's this idea that, you know, if you're putting a marketing budget or a budget or your own money into something that you trust, if then that trust is undermined, you feel stupid. You feel stupid. So not only do you not trust, but you actively dislike, you know, you feel, there's no worse feeling, I don't think, as a consumer who's invested in something, is feeling stupid. It's literally the pits, isn't it? You just feel crap and you feel, and it's horrible. It's horrible. So, you know, as a law firm, I think that's why it's so important to back up what Rebecca was saying earlier with, you know, understand what you are about, understand what your values are, and make sure that everybody, from the person who opens up in the office to the secretaries who are answering the phone, to your most senior partners, and particularly your most senior partners. And actually, we know that actually sometimes, unfortunately, it is those most senior partners who are the ones that can be tricky to manage in terms of your values. And yeah, I just think it's really, really important. Well, it is really important. Everybody knows it's important when we say it in these really simple terms. So yeah, the next time you think, right, we're going to do a marketing campaign, we're going to bring a PR agency on, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, make sure that your agency is leading with this stuff, you know. And actually the way that we do it, just really quickly, and we don't claim this as our own, this is the Chartered Institute of PR's own framework, which we follow because I think it works. And the way that we work through this is we start with the goals. What is the business goal? Okay, what are you trying to achieve? And again, that's Rebecca's 10-year plan, essentially, isn't it? What are you trying to achieve? And that can be broken down 10 years, 5 years, a year, say. 6 months, 3 months, and this next month, you know, what are we trying to achieve? What's the strategy? You know, does the law firm have a strategy? And if it does, that marketing and PR strategy should fit and align seamlessly into it. And if it doesn't, and again, if your team don't know what the business goals are and what the strategy is, then how on earth can your marketing team deliver against it? Just think about that. The next thing you need to be thinking about again, and this completely comes back to what Rebecca was saying, is who you are trying to target. Who is your target audience? And just really briefly to pick up on the target audience and this idea of won't we miss out on business? Yeah, of course you will, but it'll be the business that's crap. It'll be the business that you don't want. You know, it won't be the business that aligns with your values. It won't be the business that you really, really, really want to achieve, because the business that you really, really want to achieve, that pays well, that trusts you, that allows you to become a trusted partner with them. And I'm not just talking about B2B work here, I'm talking about B2C clients as well. You know, it will align, it will start to align. Next of all, you need to think about your key messages. And again, this comes back to, what do you want people to think about when they think of your brand? Think about that. You know, what is it that you want them to think? Because if you keep repeating those key messages and you're really clear about them, then once people start to know you, they'll understand that that's what you say because that's what you do. Then they'll start to like you because they'll think, okay, yeah, that resonates with us. We want to work with a business like that. And then last of all, they'll trust you. And because you've got that trust, and then because you're delivering what you say is on the tin, you know, you're going to deliver it, so those clients will stay with you. And not only will they stay with you, but if they're a B2C client with a business, they'll bring in their business work with you. If they're a business client for you, they'll bring in their wills and probate, their LPAs, their divorces, you know, all that sort of work. And then ironically, only at that point do you think about your tactics. Only at that point do you go, do you know what, these target audiences, they read the Times, so let's get in the Times. They're on LinkedIn, so let's go on LinkedIn. They don't really use Facebook, let's not go on Facebook. You know, and again, just a tip from the top, you know, do not do this tactics first. Don't think, Clubhouse, oh my God, we've got to be on Clubhouse. No. You know, go through the process, understand your audience, understand what you're doing, understand where you want to be, understand who you don't want to talk to, and don't talk to those people. And if, you know, on Clubhouse, you've got a load of 18-year-olds who don't want to instruct a law firm, don't be there. And, you know, this idea, won't we miss out on business? Well, yeah, you'll miss out on the business from a load of 18-year-olds, but is that the business that you want? No, of course it's not. Of course it's not. Anyway, right, really quickly, have I run out of time, Pauline?
No. I've just got a quick question on reputation, actually, really quickly. Do you think reputation is more fragile these days than it used to be for businesses?
Do I think it's more fragile? I think
media, for example, or
yeah, I don't think it's more fragile, but I think that businesses understand more how they can mold reputations, or how they can build reputations, and how they can build a certain look and feel about a business. And I think it's much easier to get that across using things like social media and the media. But I think it's very dangerous to build that reputation and not do the groundwork internally in values and all the rest of it, because as we've seen with Brewdog and with so many others, actually, it will slap you in the face. You know, these things like social media are very powerful, and people, and I think this has probably been accelerated by COVID, people want to use a business that they trust. And that may be because they have particularly strong feelings around the environment, or, you know, with the Me Too movement, you know, we see that people don't want to be associated with people who they see as dodgy, or people who are just dodgy. So no, I don't think the reputation is more fragile. I think it's easier to build a reputation that you want, but it's also easier to knock somebody down or a firm down. Yeah. That's what I think.
Yeah. Great answer.
Okie doke. Should we move on to voice?
Yeah.
Fab. So just really quick, and how long do I have actually, Pauline? Because I don't want to go on a big rant.
A few minutes.
Perfect. I just wanted to talk about here just the tactical side of PR, really, and marketing. Now we've talked about very briefly about what strategic marketing, strategic PR looks like, and the fact that there's so much work to do before you even start to think about the tactics. But what I really wanted to just talk about here is just when you do get to that tactical point, when you do go, right, okay, yeah, we want some media relations, we definitely want to kind of up our game on social media, and we're going to start running some events. So It's really just to say, just try to make sure and just remember that tactics, these different channels are there to help you. And what you need to be doing is making sure that your message and your voice is consistent across all of them. Now, I understand if you're using different agencies or if you're using a combination of in-house and agency, it's just really, really important, I think, to make sure that all of those different delivery points are talking to each other. And again, it comes back to this idea of having the goals and the strategy sort of interlinked, and just make sure that everybody knows and understands, that you're all aiming for the same thing, and just making sure not only actually that everybody's talking to each other, but that what they're doing is consistent. And also remember that, if you have a piece of content of you talking on the BBC, on the radio, or if you have a really nice piece in the business press or the trade press, or even just the kind of regional business pages, or even an advertorial that you've paid for in your small little very regional village publication, for example, remember that you should be using any of that content across as many of those different channels as you can to get across the message to as many different people as you can, because some people will see you on social media, others will hear you on the radio, some will follow your Facebook group, some will see you on LinkedIn. Just get as much bang for your buck as you can. And I know this is a kind of a really tactical message, but it's one that I think actually isn't always got across, and that actually not all law firms realise that you not only can reuse your content, but you should actively do that. So just really, really quickly to kind of finish up, know, like, and trust. PR and marketing should absolutely be fundamental to every single part of that journey. But where it's super, super powerful, I think initially at least, is for those people to get to know you. So it's really important, A, to be consistent, and B, to understand where you're going and understand what your message is, what's important to you, and how to get that across there. So yeah, thank you very much. Hope that was helpful.
Thank you. So moving along, you can see how we're building up a picture of the know stage on this journey. I'm going to talk a little bit about reach and influence, and then introduce Greg from Legal RSS, who has some really interesting stuff that can help you in this process. So we've talked a lot about culture, purpose and values. You've got your roots to PR and media, who you are, what you're about. There's another kind of dimension to this, building on what Rebecca said, which is a survey in 2018 said 88% of consumers want you to help them make a difference. So it's not just about, here's our values, purpose and vision, which is excellent. We look after our people. It's maybe thinking slightly outside the box of how do we contribute to the local community as well? What's our kind of higher goals and vision in terms of being a good business? And that can mean loads of things to different people. We have one key partner in Calico, for example, that does a lot with marine conservation, and a lot of their strategy is built around trying to reduce plastics, for example, which has a massive impact on our marine environment. They're in telecoms, it's Matrix 247, and for me that's a great example of a business that is thinking not just about their immediate business, but their impact and what can they do as a telecoms company to reduce the amount of plastic on people's desks business wise. And that's a really fantastic, actual positive, good business thing. So it's also thinking outside the box. As a law firm, I think there's loads of creative ways that you can help your local community. Pro bono work, free advice, but also if it's not perhaps directly related, I know a lot of firms do charity days and things like that. And I think it's really important for us to all contribute to the community to make things better, for everyone. So you can directly make a difference, i.e. directly with your products and services, or indirectly with things like charity days, or encouraging a staff or firm charity, for example, where you can help people indirectly through your business as well. So that was just an angle I wanted to add onto this. It's one of those touch points that tells everyone a little bit about more what your ethos and values are. Again, reach and influence. What's the purpose of a brand? Rebecca very eloquently explained this, but in more technical terms, it's basically all of those things that make up you as a business that people have an emotional response to, and the effect of that is to shortcut any decision time to work with you. And that's the whole point of having a brand and communications out there, is that people don't have to spend hours and hours researching your firm. They already know what you're about and what they can expect when they work with you. So moving on to more of the kind of practical side of it, what's the purpose of content-led marketing? And you'll notice that Calico is very content-led, and that's a reason for that. And the reason you're here today is we are sharing our business knowledge and all this expertise to demonstrate who we are, demonstrate our credibility, demonstrate our knowledge, demonstrate how we can help you, but also we hope that you're taking away some really useful hints and tips and knowledge from this as well. So we're actually taking you through the know, like, trust route with what we're doing with our Compass magazine, with the monthly strategic topics, with the articles that we publish 5 days a week on LinkedIn. And we want you to know us as people. We want you to know us as a business. And we want you to be comfortable in reaching out when you have a business issue or challenge or an opportunity and say, I know them. They're good people. They know what they're talking about. They have deep expertise in law firm, what we do, and I'm comfortable in reaching out to them. So that's exactly what we're doing with Calico in many ways. Our own case study, if you like. So the purpose of it really is to support that know, like, trust, to add value as well. So we have to add value first. Gone are the days of the hard sell. People are much more nuanced than that. They want to know about you, not what you do. So really part of that is very much content, and that's its purpose. And content can mean different things. Even in an advert, you need to say something about what people expect, not the actual physical outcome of writing a will. It's that whole experience of what they can expect when they instruct you. Interestingly enough, if you're in business, Accenture found in 2018 that most business buyers, before they even talk to you, are already more than halfway through their buying price process. So how are they going to do that if you don't share all of this great stuff about you and your firm and your culture, values and purpose and vision, and get your reputation management sorted out, your PR and media? What are they going to base this process on? And it's all about making sure that they really know your business, because by the time they speak to you, a lot of business buyers are already, like this says, halfway through that buying process. So it's not something you can necessarily control, but you can control what you communicate externally. So bringing it all together, we have our culture, purpose and values hopefully sorted out. If not, please ring Rebecca. We have our PR and media strategy sorted out based on that. If not, please ring Victoria. And we have great marketing plan and content. So that's Victoria and myself can help with those. However, what about the client experience? What happens, and I see it so much, I've worked with many firms over the years. Some of them have very, very good marketing departments, and they have a really good brand, and they put out some fantastic communications. And then when I ring up, no one answers the phone. It's very frustrating in that the first touch point I've had as an external is to ring up and no one answers the phone, or I can't get through to anyone, or there's just something about when I go in and do consulting with firms, I expect my expectations have been set from this branding and what I've seen externally. And then I go in and I discover that actually there's a very, very traditional old school firm sitting behind it. And it really worries me, because what happens is you get that disconnect from all of this fantastic work, and then the client experience just does not deliver. And what you're actually doing, no one likes a fail, do we? What you're actually doing is, it'd be very jarring for someone, as Victoria said, you feel like you've set this image of what you're going to experience in your mind, and that's the whole point of marketing and branding. But if the client experience doesn't match up with that, it's actually worse, because you feel let down, slightly betrayed. Maybe these aren't even conscious emotions, they're kind of in the background, but you're going to not use that firm for a very long time, because you've been sold something that hasn't delivered. And what we call that is the psychological contract. So I've written an article on the psychological contract. It's a really interesting concept. We have this employment contract and we have this supply contract with clients. You have your SLAs, but actually alongside it is a hidden contract that's actually established with who they meet when they turn up to your reception, how your office is presented, what they've seen before, what they've read in articles, what adverts they've seen, webinar content they've seen, the newsletter they've got from you. So a joined up approach to this is absolutely essential to avoid breaking that psychological contract with your employees and your customers. And I think there's a point coming up for law firms where it's a very interesting point about hybrid working. That could be one of those friction points on the psychological contract with your staff. Is we've well worked remotely over the last 14 months, and making that move from something that clearly works for a lot of firms back to the office is going to be quite tricky in terms of what you've communicated over the last 14 months and what you're actually going to ask them to do from September. So we're thinking about actually doing a webinar in September on this topic of the return to the office and how to handle that. But the whole thing around psychological contract is really interesting. It's that gut feel. And there's lots to do with mergers and acquisitions where that gut feeling about the firm you've been working for 10 years just isn't quite the same. That's to do with the psychological contract and all that hidden stuff. But it's really important. So for some reason, I've managed to skip Greg's slides. Greg, I haven't forgotten you. I'm now going to introduce Greg Best from Legal RSS, who will talk more about how to create really good content-led marketing to support all of this process we've been talking about today. Greg, over to you.
Thank you very much. I think you're okay, Pauline. I think I just saw the logo you had on a couple of slides, so not to worry at all. Hi everyone, I'm Greg Best. I'm a director at Legal RSS, which provides instant legal content for your website and social media. Rebecca, Pauline and Victoria have all spoken on quite a high level strategic angle. I'm going to talk really tactically and quickly run through 5 quick tips on how to create or review successful content for your law firm. So you have some quick and easy takeaways that you can apply straight away to some of the content that you're posting out. To hopefully bolster and support some of the values and reputation that Victoria and Rebecca have spoken about. Next slide, please, Pauline. So number 1 is keep posting regularly. Can I get a quick reaction in the chat? Just a Y for yes or an N for no, if you know you have posted content on your website in the last month. So if you know you've got content on there, put a Y. If you know there's no content or you don't know there's any doubt, put an N. Because this is one I see all the time. You click on the news section on a law firm website and you see the latest post from 2009 or for even 6 months ago, it already looks outdated. So never mind SEO and search engine optimization and all the technical implications of not updating your website. This is one that just looks like you don't care or that you've forgotten to do so, which is maybe worse. So this sort of problem of not updating the website is something that Legal RSS is built around. We supply legal articles based on recent case law across a broad range of areas, private client and commercial client. And the image on the screen at the moment is an example of one of our RSS news feeds. So that automatically pushes content onto your website so that you can sort of set it and forget it, knowing there will be recent content on your website. So sort of does the role of a marketing executive. So anyone, and I think there aren't many no's, 1 or 2 no's, mostly yeses, pleased to see. But any legal RSS client would be an immediate yes. They wouldn't have to check, they would know. So next slide, please. Number 2 is focus on your clients, or more specifically, don't focus so much on yourselves. And Rebecca touched a little bit on this. So Never has a law firm's client, after speaking to a lawyer, identifying the issue, qualifying whether that firm is a good fit, both expertise-wise and on a personal level, then ask the question, what year were you founded? They don't care. It is entirely natural to focus on ourselves, our establishment, our business that we live and breathe, and what interests us when we're creating content. But the best content does the opposite, focuses on the client, what interests them, what is relevant to them, and what language do they use. Next slide, please. So if it's not you, what is it? So you have to make it interesting. So you avoid what Rebecca mentioned, the long list of services and locations. I spend loads of time on law firm websites, and so often they have done the absolute bare minimum in terms of, here's a list of all our practice areas, here's another list of all our locations, and that's about it, really. So if you want to stand out and convert more from your website, then the key is to offer genuinely interesting and useful content. For example, it could be important dates, deadlines that they need to be aware of. It could be updates to the law and how that affects them. It could be interesting cases that might sound like cases of theirs, as an example. Next slide, please. Number 4 is focus on the outcome. So don't get too bogged down in the legal jargon and legal details. Lawyers care about the law. Everyone else cares about how the law affects them. So what impact the law has on them. Andy Bounds, a communications consultant and sales trainer of the year, not long ago, spoke a lot about this. So I'll paraphrase him, who said that nobody wants to see a lawyer. They want the solution provided after having seen a lawyer, right? So they don't want to see a lawyer because that would mean, generally speaking, that some element of their life or business is in crisis. So it's nothing personal. But use this approach in your writing. Focus on the issue and the solution that you provide and the outcome of what they'll achieve after having spoken to you. Next slide. Number 5 is a really tangible one. This is break up the content. So in terms of how you present your article, keep the client in mind and how they are perceiving, how they're literally seeing it on their screen. So clients or prospective clients browsing your website want to find the key information specifically relevant to them, and they want to do it as quickly as humanly possible. So rather than assuming that they're already invested in that content, or as invested as you have been in creating it, assume the opposite and assume that you kind of have to spoon feed the reader. So break up the content with subheadings, smaller paragraphs, so the reader has multiple entry points to the text, so they can, if something is slow or doesn't quite engage them in the first bit, they can see a subheading or a title on the next section, and they can get into the content that way. I once had a great teacher who had some excellent advice on essay writing, which was the first line of each paragraph should tell you what that paragraph is about, right? It's a bit of a lazy and maybe approach to essay writing, but I think it's really applicable to online content. You don't want the reader to work hard. So remember that your goal is not to make them read that whole body of text. Your goal is to make them pick up the phone and contact you or email you, of course. Next slide, please. So the bonus tip is don't forget the basics. So I shouldn't need to say this, but I see it too often and the impact is too great to miss it out. Spelling mistakes, typos, outdated information. There's absolutely no excuse for it, and they're just so easy to avoid. Just triple check any content that is going up there, because the taste it leaves in your mouth when you see a typo on someone's page is it's just such a poor reflection of where you are. And as a lawyer, not being perceived as detail orientated or someone that cares is obviously a very negative outcome. Next slide, please. Just to prove that typo was deliberate. Next slide, please. So quick recap. Be more active. Inactivity looks like you don't care. So post. Get the content up there. Don't leave it. Don't leave 6 months old website, or even worse, content that was created when your website was originally created. It just looks awful. Get some content up there. Number 2 is focus on your clients' problems, not yourselves, and the history of your business. Clients care about how they can help you, how you can help them rather. Number 3 is write about the things that interest and engage the client. So don't get bogged down in the legal jargon and the legal detail. 4 is focus on the outcome of your services. So not the how or the why or the what, but focus on the outcome. Number 5 is the very tangible, very applicable. Break up your content so it's more readable. And they've got multiple points of entry, as I said. And the bonus tip is get the basics right. It is just unforgivable to have spelling, typo, odd formatting, broken links, images in awkward places. So it's a very quick double check. Next slide, please. So get your phone out now, put it in camera mode, and you can scan that QR code if you want to download our app, and it might just give you a flavor. Well, it will give you a flavor of the type of content we produce, but it might give you an idea of the type of content that you could be producing. And of course, if you want to get in touch, have a chat about your existing content or run through how you can improve any of that, then feel free to drop me an email or give us a call. And I hope that at least one of those tips you found useful. And I'll hand it over back to Pauline. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg. What I like about legal RSS is that it's very, very up-to-date case law. You have court reporters coming out of the decisions with, you know, up-to-date content, and you don't have to reproduce it exactly, but it's a brilliant starting point for comment. So some case law comes out, your property head of department could make a comment or a paragraph or 2 about how this affects your clients, and that would be really, really good content for a newsletter to your commercial property clients, for example. So it's really a way of getting a head start on content. Later in, I'll just go back to where we were. Later in the year, we'll be following up with the second and third part of this, where we'll talk a bit more about marketing cadence and marketing mix and things. But obviously for today, we wanted to focus on the really important stuff that actually makes that foundation of everything else that we do work. So that's the end of our formal session today. Hope you enjoyed it, got some really good ideas, and do reach out to us on LinkedIn or email, or if you haven't got anyone else's details, just drop me a note at pauline@calicolegalgroup.co.uk. I will happily connect you with the right people. And hopefully we see you on the 15th of July, talking all about that professional indemnity market and what you can do to get the best position for your firm. That's the end of the formal session. If you're leaving us now, hopefully see you next time. If you want to stay on and talk to any of the speakers, do so, and I will attempt to manage you in the chat and unmute everyone who wants to speak. So thank you.